airspace. And if it was accidentally, it was a mistake, there has been plenty of time for Russian Federation to apologize and say, sorry, we made a mistake. Instead, we see a pattern. Russia is testing European borders, probing our resolve, undermining the security of the whole of Europe. Russia will continue to provoke as long as we allow it. Therefore, the United Nations and the international community must clearly condemn such actions. It is a breach of the UN Charter, which obliges all states to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other countries. And it is particularly cynical that a permanent member of the UN Security Council, entrusted with safeguarding peace, actively seeks to undermine it. Russia's aggression against Ukraine continues, and now it is extending provocations against the European Union members. Russia hopes that it might force us to draw our focus away from supporting Ukraine and focus solely on our own security. Well, let me be very clear. European security starts with Ukraine. And any provocation against EU member states will only strengthen our resolve to support Ukraine. I say this openly to Russian representatives in this room. Your government's actions are reckless, dangerous, and go against the very principles of the United Nations. Our response is united and firm. First, we stand in full solidarity with Estonia, Poland, and Romania. Second, we collectively condemn Russian sovereignty violations. And third, the European Union will continue to help strengthen European defense and deterrence together with NATO. And fourth, for every test or every violation of our security, our resolve to support Ukraine grows. Russia cannot be allowed to normalize such behavior. International law is not optional. The sovereignty and security of one member state is sovereignty and security of all. I call on you to condemn Russia's violation of Estonia's airspace. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Kallas for the statement, and I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Radoslav Sikorski, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland.
Mr. President, Excellencies, this Emergency Security Council meeting has been called because a mere week after Russia sent drones into Poland, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets with their transponders off entered Estonian airspace without authorization and lingered for 12 minutes. On the same day, 2 Russian fighter jets violated the security zone over the Polish drilling platform in our economic zone in the Baltic Sea. If these were accidents, why not immediately acknowledge them and apologize? We have given Russia a pass in the past in such circumstances. But we have not heard any apologies, only lies. Together with the intensification of attacks on Ukraine, they seem to be an eloquent comment on, quote, moving from confrontation to dialogue, end quote, promised by Vladimir Putin in Alaska. These breaches of airspace are suspect because they are an escalation of hybrid war which Russia has waged against the West for years. Murders of politicians, journalists, human rights defenders and defectors, cyber attacks against hospitals and financial institutions, arsons, including in Poland, UK and Lithuania, postal packages containing incendiary devices all over Europe, including Germany, attacks on Ukrainian embassies, in addition to standard espionage and disinformation. Excellencies, this Council has a responsibility to send a clear message that such provocations will not be tolerated. It must stand in solidarity with Estonia, Romania, Poland, and all nations whose sovereignty is threatened by systemic Russian aggression. To the representatives of Russia, I have this to say. We know you don't care for international law and you are incapable of living in peace with your neighbors. Your insane nationalism contains a lust for domination that will not cease until you realize that the age of empires is over and that your empire will not be rebuilt. Every drone strike by the heroes of the armed forces of Ukraine, may God bless them, brings this day closer. Your 3-day special military operation can't even conquer Donbas for 10 years now. But the potential for criminal, catastrophic Russian mistakes is still there. By ordering mobilization in 1914, you precipitated the start of World War I, which bled Europe white and led to your Bolshevik revolution. By signing the Hitler-Stalin Pact, you helped launch World War II, the bloodiest in history. By Sovietizing Central Europe, you caused the Cold War. Don't start another one. We are peaceful democracies who have studiously avoided actively joining your attempt to reconquer Ukraine. But we will not be intimidated. I have only one request to the Russian government. If another missile or aircraft enters our space without permission, deliberately or by mistake, and gets shot down and the wreckage falls on NATO territory, please don't come here to whine about it. You have been warned. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Sikorski for the statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Johann Vadeful, Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany.
Mr. President, 12 minutes. 12 minutes in which 3 Russian fighter jets brazenly ventured into Estonian airspace. 12 minutes in which they made their way almost to the Estonian capital, to Tallinn. What happened early Friday morning marked a further dangerous escalation by Russia. The incursion came just over a week after more than 20 Russian drones had entered Polish airspace. Once again, in Estonia, Russia violated, without any provocation, the territorial integrity of one of its neighbors, and thus one of the fundamental principles of the UN Charter. We condemn this grave violation of international law. This is not the behavior of a state seeking to preserve global peace and security, but one of recklessly disregarding international norms. Together with our partners, Germany stands firmly in solidarity with Estonia. We stand together against those who seek to use military coercion to undermine our sovereignty, freedom, and solidarity. The most recent alarming incidents bring to light 2 significant insights. First, Russia's ongoing aggression is not only directed against Ukraine and its people, rather, in its reckless behavior, Russia poses a serious danger to regional security as well as to global peace and stability. Second, there were many initiatives for negotiations, most recently under the strong leadership of the United States. Ukraine is ready to engage and has repeatedly offered an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. Nonetheless, Russia has repeatedly chosen not only to continue, but to intensify its aggression. This must end. Let there be no doubt, reckless provocations will not work. This is not just a problem for Russia's immediate neighbors. This is a problem for all of us, united here in our commitment to the UN Charter and its principles. Germany stands for these principles. Russia does not. We will not rest until a sustainable and just peace in Ukraine is achieved, a peace that is rooted in the principles of the UN Charter and negotiated with Ukraine sitting at the table. An unconditional ceasefire is urgently needed to stop the bloodshed and to lay the foundation to build trust for sincere negotiations. The people of Ukraine, as well as the people of Estonia and Poland, just as the people of every country, have the right to live in peace and security. It is our shared responsibility as UN member states to hold those accountable who endanger peace and security. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Vadeful for the statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Andrei Sybiha, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
Thank you for organizing this important meeting. Just 10 days ago, this Council held an emergency meeting requested by Poland after being intruded by 2,000 Russian drones. Today, we are meeting at the urgent request of Estonia after 3 Russian jets violated its airspace. What's next? Which other emergency meeting will we have to hold in the coming weeks? Who will be the next country dealing with Russia's provocations? None of these developments were accidental. No, Moscow does this on purpose. A country occupying a permanent seat in this council is destroying international peace and security it is supposed to maintain. The logic is simple. Russia escalates to force everyone to play by its rules. It wants to impose the law of the jungle upon everyone, might make right. Our goal is the opposite. We must make Russia play by our rules. We have such rules accepted by everyone. They called the UN Charter. It is important that existing tools to be in the Security Council meeting or invocation of NATO Article 4 are actively used. However, political action should be backed by strong practical steps. Weak or late responses will only encourage further aggression. Europe is not at war with Russia, but Russia is at war with Europe. And the only way to safeguard peace is to respond with strength and unity. The best way to prevent a larger war in Europe is to increase support for Ukraine. If you help us end this war sooner with respect to the UN Charter, Russia will not expand it to other nations. Mr. President, a strong response means that a threat should not be escorted neither for 12 minutes nor for 1 minute. It should be neutralized. We reiterate our readiness for air defense integration. This is our European sky over Ukraine and other European nations. This is our common security space, and we must have a common sky shield to protect us all. Ukraine is the only country in the world countering regular massive air attacks of more than 500,000 drones and missiles, and we are ready to share experience and join forces. An integrated European air defense system combining intelligence, early warning, and active interception is essential. We have the capabilities, experience, and alliances, but action must be decisive, adequate, and swift. Other elements of a strong response include devastating sanctions, pressure on, and strong deterrence packages for Ukraine. The Russian war machine can only be stopped through strength, not weakness. Wait and see is not a strategy. Let's abandon wishful thinking. Russia poses an existential threat to Europe, and it will not disappear if we close our eyes. Ukraine has learned many bitter lessons in the past. What we now see in Poland and Estonia reminds of how Russian aggression against Ukraine started. Hybrid attacks and escalation, unmarked soldiers, violations of state border, and other steps. We can see this pattern repeating, but in another forms. The only effective way to counter this escalation is to respond with strength and unity. In conclusion, we reiterate that aggression against any European nation threatens the security of all. Only united action can prevent escalation and preserve peace in Europe. We stand in solidarity with our friendly Estonia, with the Estonian government and people, and we are ready to contribute to our shared security. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Sibiha for the statement. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Mrs. Oana Silvia Toiu, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Romania.
Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity to take the floor at this emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, where we meet again to defend the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. I also want to thank Assistant Secretary General Miroslav for his briefing. Outside the Council chamber, our conversations focus on the UN80 and the importance of fundamental principles enshrined in the UN Charter. It is dismaying that one permanent member of the Security Council is out of sync and blatantly violates these principles. Russia has repeatedly violated the sovereign airspace of European countries. Now it is Estonia. Last week it was Romania. Before that, Poland. In the case of Romania, in most of these cases, there were involved drones of Iranian origin. We strongly condemn Russia's reckless and dangerous behavior, which directly endangers even more international peace and security. We stand together with Estonia, Poland, and our partners and allies in rejecting such behavior and defending key principles of the Charter and international law. Today, I speak on behalf of Romania. We are the country with the largest border with Ukraine of all its peaceful neighbors, and one of the countries whose sovereign airspace was tested by Russia on various occasions since its war of aggression against Ukraine. At the same time, the war triggered by Russia might affect security in the Black Sea, unless, together with our neighbors, together with our international partners, we invest in defensive and early warning instruments, such as common maritime security approach, both within the European Union, among the Black Sea participants, and NATO. We need to address the insecurity in this key region of Europe with global relevance that affects maritime security, commercial shipping lanes, both regionally and globally, as well as access to vital goods to our markets, including grains, key commodities, and food supplies. Even a perceived lack of reaction from the international community, especially this Council, might encourage future provocations, but we can also do the opposite and discourage them. We need to firmly reject, once and for all, this unjustified and unprovoked aggression against Ukraine. We all want peace, but that also means that we need strength, and strength is achieved together. Mr. President, within the international community, most of the world nations are aligned to the need to protect the principles of the UN Charter. We join previous speakers' call to Russia to stop all provocations and threats against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other states. Russia should not be emboldened to continue such behavior. In this context, my government welcomes the efforts undertaken by the United States, the European Union, and world leaders to put an end to Russia's war of aggression, and especially respects the effort of Ukraine, and we stand together for peace. Action is of essence now. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Her Excellency Mrs. Toiu for the statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. David Van Hill, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Asylum and Migration of Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I have the honor to speak on behalf of the Benelux countries, Belgium, Luxembourg, and my own country, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The Benelux countries welcome that the Council urgently addresses these unprovoked violations of Estonian airspace. We condemn these violations in the strongest possible terms. It is yet another clear and unacceptable violation by Russia of the territorial integrity of a sovereign nation. And this is not an isolated incident. It cannot be ignored. It has been less than 2 weeks ago that in this very Council you discussed the violation of Polish airspace. And we are, unfortunately, seeing a wider pattern of Russian provocations against its neighbors while Russia continues its full-scale war of aggression against Ukraine. This incident demonstrates that if Russia's aggression remains unchecked, it is bound to repeat itself. We call on this Council and all member states to make clear that this reckless behavior is not only unacceptable, but also presents clear risks to peace and security. It is imperative that we all protect the UN Charter and international law, and the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations must be respected. These are the cornerstones of 80 years of the United Nations. The Benelux countries will defend these principles, standing shoulder to shoulder with Estonia. The path to peace is clear. The Russian Federation needs to end its war of aggression in Ukraine and choose the path of meaningful negotiations for a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace. And all the members of this Council and all UN member states have a responsibility to play their role in safeguarding global stability. That means holding Russia back from further destabilizing international peace and security in the interest of us all. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Venhuel for the statement. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Maria Malmö Stenergard, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Sweden.
Thank you, President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the 5 Nordic states, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and my own country, Sweden. President, the Nordics condemn Russia's serious violation of Estonian airspace and thus of its territorial integrity on the 19th of September. The Nordics stand in full solidarity with Estonia. Like our Baltic friends, the Nordic region shares a long border with Russia. We are deeply concerned about Russia's lack of respect for the territorial integrity of its neighbors. By violating Estonian airspace, Russia has again shown its reckless and lawless behavior. Not even 2 weeks ago, the Security Council convened in another emergency session following Russia's violation of Poland's airspace. Since then, Russia has also violated Romania's airspace. We urge Russia to immediately stop and to bear its responsibility as a permanent member of this Council. Russia's recent airspace violations and its broader campaign of malicious activities against other countries illustrates the seriousness of Russia's threat to international security. It only strengthens our resolve in facing this threat by upholding our sovereignty and territorial integrity, as well as further intensifying our long-standing support to Ukraine. Over the past weeks, Russia has increased its attacks against Ukraine. Last week alone, Russia launched more than 1,500 strike drones, 1,280 guided aerial bombs, and 50 missiles against Ukraine, according to Ukrainian reports. These are not the actions of a country that seeks peace. The Nordic countries support a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace based on the UN Charter and international law. A peace must respect Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. President, we need to remind ourselves that Russia is waging a war of aggression against Ukraine in blatant violation of international law. Russia could end its war tomorrow. Until it does, the Nordics stand undeterred in face of Russia's illegal actions. I thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Malmö Stenergard for the statement. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Babia Bratze, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Latvia.
Mr. President, I deliver this statement on behalf of 2 Baltic states, Lithuania and my own country, Latvia. I thank the Presidency of the Council for convening this meeting, and I thank Assistant Secretary General Jenča for the briefing. Lithuania and Latvia stand in full solidarity with our neighbor and ally, Estonia. On 12 September, this Council strongly condemned the violation of Polish airspace by a massive Russian drone incursion. We expressed our full solidarity with Poland at that meeting, and we warned of the risk of further provocations by Russia. Now it is Estonia calling this meeting in response to another grave and deliberate escalation by Russia. Mr. President, Europe has witnessed a growing number of Russia's non-conventional attacks, ranging from GPS jamming, sabotage, attempts to place explosives on DHL planes, to drone incursions. Russia's war in Ukraine and Russia's flagrant violation of Estonia's airspace once again demonstrates Russia's complete disregard for the authority of this Council, and also for the demands expressed by the international community in numerous UN General Assembly resolutions. And Mr. President, let me say, we are not facing a Ukraine crisis. We are faced with a Russia crisis. As we speak at this emergency meeting, Russia continues to target and destroy Ukrainian cities, critical civilian infrastructure, kill innocent civilians, medical personnel, children, women, all in pursuit of a land grab. Contrary to the efforts of the President of the United States and European and Ukrainian partners, Russia doesn't seek peace. Russia's imperial and colonial ambitions brutally violate UN Charter. Remember Georgia in 2008, Crimea in 2014, and then the full-scale aggression against Ukraine since 2022. Mr. President, today in 1939, Soviet and Nazi forces held a joint military parade to celebrate invading and partitioning Poland. We will never accept Russia's attempts to attack, dominate, intimidate, or establish a sphere of influence over its neighbors. Empires are dead. We, the free and democratic countries, will continue to invest in our deterrence, defense, resilience. We are working closely with our allies to deploy additional capabilities to ensure that future Russian provocations are not tolerated. And we ask the Council to continue to be engaged on upholding international peace and security. We are committed to it. Yet, ironically, again, it is the aggressive, revanchist behavior of Russia, permanent member of this August Council, who is gravely undermining global security. So Latvia and Lithuania call on this Council and all UN member states to condemn Russia's aggressive actions in the strongest terms. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Baiba Bratse for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.